I suggest this printer is down. I don't have a indexing arm. I think when the round kept getting jammed, it bent the arm. When you try to bend it back, it once it bends, it's done. But I think I figured out the whole problem with this ejection rod thing. The first thing I did was take the ejection rod out, unbend it, made it straight, added more length to the part that actually touches the brass. So it's longer this way now. It could even be a little longer, but it's longer this way. That works. Another thing I've done is real quick. To set the ejection arm is easy. I take a round I'm getting ready to work with. Like these are nines. I will put the round in this station here, the ejecting station. Basically, this would be the crimp station. I'll put the round in the crimp station. I would take the rod, make sure it's just with the 0.38 or 35 off of the die plate. Off of the shell plate. And I would hold it against the round in this station. Hold the round in, and then I would tighten it down while it's touching this back part right here, because it's long enough now, of the round itself. And that right there makes all the difference in the world. The length of this ejection rod makes all the difference in the world. That's why the Dillon 650 is so foolproof. That ejection rod goes all the way across to the goddamn to the goddamn nut that holds the plate down. This right here is just long enough where it is right behind this round here. It's sticking out a little bit, but would not too long where it would touch the indexing rod, the indexing arm, but longer, somewhat longer than what it was before. Before I unbent it and bent it and made it a little longer on this end, and this has been working. And before, if I was you with this thing, before I loaded any caliber on this machine, I would do what I'm doing right now. I would hose it up. I'm using a little cap that I got off the one-shot Hornady. I put it under this thing to lift it up. I might have to get something a little higher when I get my indexing arm back, and then I would very gently take my finger and rotate this bad boy. And I would do this like 20 times just to make sure this thing is ejecting the rounds properly. Because when it don't do it, when it jams up, it bends that arm. And once that arm gets bent, you might be able to bend it back. It might work for a little while, but it's going to keep bending. So what you want to do is make sure that that doesn't happen ever again. And I have figured out the longer ejection rod, whatever the spring they call it, the long ejection spring, with it touching the back of the shell case or the round itself. When you tie it down tight, makes all the difference in the world. I've been doing this. I went through this whole. It's got to be over about 200 in here just doing this. I've been testing. This is not my first time testing. This is the third time, and I haven't ran into one that got stuck yet. I even changed out my plate and put the 40 caliber plate in here and took some 40 rounds that I have and did the same thing, and they all ejected perfectly with just minimum effort. I'm touching this bullet right here, just putting a little bit of pressure, and that's what I'm doing. And I will do this every. I'm gonna do this right before I load a round, right before I load anything. I'm gonna do this right here 20 times, just to make sure that each of these bad boys. Look, I'm barely touching this bad boy. Ejecting this. It's ejecting. Look at that. Not one of them gets stuck. Not one of them. The longer ejection rod was the key. I think I learned that from somebody on one of them forums, so he mentioned it. But it works. And the placement of it, touching the back of the actual shell itself, the actual round itself. Very little force I'm putting on this thing. Because that's what's bending, that's what bent my, that's what bent the arm on this thing. The case getting stuck on that little short wire. Wire was ridiculous. Anyway, yeah, that's what bent my indexing, and basically, it eventually broke. Because when you try to bend it back, it'll work for a little while, but since it's already been weakened by the first bend, it's finished. So once you do that the first time, if you have to bend this thing back one time, I suggest you get on the phone with RCBS, tell them to send you another one, because you ain't gonna have long with that one. I guarantee it. So I've been doing this. Now whatever you're around, they want to fall on his own. It's so sweet. It's so slick now. Look at that. That thing working every time. Very little effort. I'm putting very little pressure on this thing. Very little pressure. So, my primer transfer bars came in, the new ones, because I had the old ones. Because when I converted this from a 5 to a 7, the kit had the old primer transfer bars, and I had to call them in order. That's killing me with this press. Having to call these guys. I'd rather for them to sell them online for like 5 for like $10 or something. 6 for like $12 because all they are little pieces of plastic. I would like them to sell that little piece of metal index on that they created like $2 a piece. Because come on, you never know what's going to happen with this thing, and that's such a flimsy part. I mean, it's metal, I guess, but it is such a flimsy piece of metal that one stuck case will put it on its path to total breakage and destruction. I saw a guy on one of those forums, I'm going to leave you guys this, downing the Hornady lock and load compared to this. This is a smooth press, but the mechanics of this press, the main parts, are crap. Let's be honest. The plastic slides, the transfer bars, that little thin piece of indexing metal that's under there is ridiculous. You can never compare that to my Hornady. My Hornady got one of the most thought out transfer bar systems I've seen. And I worked through it. I remember when they used to have problems. But that bad boy, that transfer bar is made of metal. It doesn't use friction. It actually has a wheel that travels up and down the transfer bar ramp or whatever you want to call it. And if anything jams in that bad boy, the ramp snaps out of its detent and before it breaks that transfer bar. It's a detent that little wire ramp is stuck into. If it's too much pressure on it, if it jams, that bad boy breaks out of that detent and it saves your transfer bar. That's what these guys should have did. It's like a circuit breaker without breaking anything. All you gotta do is clear the obstruction, put that little transfer bar ramp, what you ever want to call it, back into its detent, and you off and running again. It's genius. You cannot compare this right here with these goofy engineers who came up with this to the guys who came up with that Hornady L&L. L&L is not perfect. The thing that's not perfect is when they made a mistake with the ejection rod they had in there the first time. They had to give you a whole new die plate holder with the little nub on it that ejects things. That thing jams up every other, maybe every 20, 30 cases. But you know what it doesn't do? It doesn't destroy the indexing of my plate. It doesn't destroy it. It doesn't ruin it. Just with one jam. That thing jams up because of that little nub. Every now and then you get a jam. It does not destroy it like this thing will. The slightest jam destroys the indexing arm of this thing. It's ridiculous. It's retarded. What the hell were those damn mechanical engineers thinking? I mean, where did they hire them guys from? Engineering clearinghouse? Every load-bearing, force-bearing part of this system is made out of cheap bullshit. Let's be honest. Cheap plastic or cheap little piece, tiny. Look, the index. I don't even want to put out. It's so embarrassing. The indexing arm is a little piece of. When you look at it, you got to be kidding me. When they put this in there, they think how do they see that as a solution? Is beyond me. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I'm not going to keep on badgering. I think if you can keep this thing from jamming up, because this is the one I found. This is the major problem. This is the major obstruction that eventually breaks that transfer. Not the transfer, but the indexing arm. Is when a round gets stuck in his eject wire. If you can get that working all the time, like I think I got it now. Because they haven't gave me no problems. You won't have to worry about that thing breaking like that. Maybe eventually after maybe several 100,000 rounds, maybe 10, 20,000 rounds from just basically use of that little piece of goddamn metal. But you won't get no premature breakage. It prevents premature breakage of that little crappy little piece of metal they put in there that turns that actually is the force that turns this shell plate. Little piece of goddamn metal. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's dumb. Well, anyway, yeah. So if you do this, what I'm doing right now, extend the arm of that eject wire and sit it right behind the round when you put it out. You can hold the round in, put the wire, have the wire touch the back while you're holding it in. Have this wire, the eject wire or spring, whatever you want to call it, touch the back of the round, and then tie it down. Tighten that bad boy down. You should be good. But you got to make it longer though. I could even make it a little longer than what I got it now. But hey, you know, it's working like this right now, so I think I made it long enough. So that's my tip. You know, take it as take it or leave it. Up to you. But when I get that indexing arm in, that's going to be the true test. All right.